Hey friend, this is episode number 515 of the And So podcast with Taylor Bradford. Let's get to it. Boss Girl Creative presents And So with Taylor Bradford, business and life musings from a successful serial entrepreneur. Each week, you will hear Taylor spill the tea on all things business, life, relationships, health, and everything in between. But don't worry, each week also includes a business nugget that will help you stay on course. And now a throwback to 3-year-old Taylor who inspired all of this.
And so.
Hello, how are you? Welcome to this week's episode of the And So podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Bradford. Thank you so much for being here. I am officially recording on Earth Day, which surprisingly, I don't think many people talk about, although I have seen it all up in my feed. But when I was in elementary school, my school and my teachers, and I feel like I was probably 3rd or 4th grade, made a humongo deal about Earth Day. And I remember a special TV show about Earth Day. Like, it was a big thing. And we had this, I don't remember if it was like a kaleidoscope kind of a bus that showed up and you got to do crafts and stuff during that particular week. I don't know. It was just imprinted in my mind. And so every time I think about Earth Day, I have very fond memories. And I'm curious if you do too. So let's dive into this week's topics. I'm going to tell you, and we're going to round of applause for me because I finally finished Things We Left Behind. So I'm going to clap for myself here because that took me forever to finish. I am just using audiobooks to consume content. And I'm just finding it very challenging to have pockets of time where I'm not doing anything else. And audiobooks truly allow me to consume that kind of content without having to find those pockets of time. So, yay for me. It took me forever, probably like 3 months to finish that book, but I truly just really struggle with not multitasking all the time or just finding time where I feel like I can do something for myself without having to feel like I got something accomplished or didn't. So I finally finished Things We Left Behind. And again, no shade at Lucy Score. I absolutely love her. She's one of my all-time favorite authors. It's a fantastic book. It had me in tears towards the end. And so fantastic book, 5 stars, Things We Left Behind. I also finished You Should Smile More. That was actually a really cute read. And Apprentice to the Villain and Assistant to the Villain. Actually, Assistant is first, and then the second book is Apprentice. Those were fun. That author is coming out with book number 3 this August. All 4 of those books, 5 stars. I am currently listening to L is for Lawless, another Sue Grafton, and I'm reading The Hitman and The Psychic. So both are good so far, but hopefully The Hitman and The Psychic, I get through it in less than 3 months. But yes, audiobooks are just a thing I'm going towards right now, or choosing, because I can multitask. And yeah, so that's the book update. And let's talk about garden. Oh my gosh, I am so close to having things starting to bloom, which is wild. My basil is already blooming, which most of my basil is not for consumption. Most of my basil is for filler in bouquets that I will be making. And yeah, so I've got cinnamon basil, I've got lemon basil, and then I've got regular basil growing. And I actually just got that all into the ground. It's been growing from seed in my seed starting trays, and I just have not been able to have a chance to get it out. But I did. I got it all transplanted out yesterday. And some of it is already starting to flower, which is totally fine. And then I noticed that my sunflowers are starting to flower. Like they are in that production. And I'm like, wow, I thought they were supposed to be taller, which may have been a user error. Like I may have not needed to transplant them. Like I had somebody yell at me on TikTok that I should have just direct sown them into the ground, but I didn't. And all of them but one survived, all but two. And I think I planted out over 60 sunflower seeds, or planted out 60 sunflower plants. Maybe there's more than that. And some of them are starting to work on flowers, which is so crazy. My onions are doing really well. It helped that we had a decent rain over the weekend, but they were finally growing some roots and the roots are taking hold. So that's good. And let's see, what else do I have? Lavender. I got my lavender planted out. I also direct seeded lavender into a row. My okra's out. My corn is growing. I just planted that out from seed maybe a week ago. And my beans and peas are starting to grow. Like it's just so joyful being out in the garden. So joyful. I have some dahlia tubers that are going to go in the ground soon, but I seeded a lot of dahlias and transplanted them, and they are doing well. I reseeded all of zinnias, and some of the zinnias that survived my garden are actually starting to produce new leaves. And even the ones that I thought were totally toast, I took them back to the shop, kept them in their seed tray, and they are starting to find some life. So I'm going to keep watering and keep my eye on them and get those transplanted out as soon as I see more growth. And that's really shocking to me. Like the root system is what has saved some of them. Now, some of them I totally made them kick the bucket, and that's totally my fault. But some of them are surprising me. So yay, roots. Yay, roots. For my birthday, I received some Amazon gift card money. Shout out to my dad and Alicia for that. And I bought myself a weighted vest. Have you used a weighted vest before? So I'm thinking to myself, like, I have a hard time getting up and moving. Like, if I am like in the zone with working, I will forget to get up and eat, and I will forget to get up and just move around, and it's terrible. So I have a weighted vest that I'm going to be using when I get on my treadmill, my walking pad, and also I'm considering putting it on while I'm working in the garden. I'm just trying to find ways to introduce more weight-bearing activity because I'm so busy. Like I worked until 11:30 last night with roofing. Now, I did take like 2 hours right around 5:30-ish to go out and water. But I was just thinking, okay, there's just so much going on and I need to not sit down. So when I get up, I need to have this weighted vest on. So I'm going to try out a weighted vest and see how it works for me. But I'm curious if you've tried one. I'd love to know if you have and what your experience is. And today we are seeding our landing strip with, I think, Bermuda grass seed. And so my husband's out getting the seeder that we will hook to our tractor, and I will go out and get some content for that. We unfortunately experienced termites in our home again over on my tenant side. So I've got a termite pest guy coming out today, and we are just biting the bullet and doing a whole home treatment as well as spot treatment, because this is legit the third time out in a year that we've had termite activity, and we've just been spot treating. And I told my husband, the spot treatment is like $750 and a whole home treatment is like $22-ish. And I'm like, we've already paid $1,500 and we were going to pay another $750. So we should have treated the whole home last time, but we're doing it this time. So if you create at least here in Texas or in my area, if you do a whole home treatment, you can maintain a warranty by paying 10% of your whole home treatment. And we're just unfortunately in a pocket where termites like to hang out. So I don't need them terrorizing my home, the framing of my home. That would be terrible. And yeah, so Adulting 101 right there for you. And the other big news is our form boards are up for our barndo build. And now we're just waiting for a pocket of time for the piers to be put into the ground. So we're doing, I think, 64 or 66 or 67 piers in the ground, which is to help create a strong foundation for the house itself. And then once the piers are in and they are cured, the next step is to have my plumber out so he can do the rough in. Like, it is moving along. It is so exciting. We should be dried in by September, and that just means windows and doors, and we can keep water out. We won't start the actual framing of the house part inside the metal building until later this fall, early next year. Or, yeah, I guess we're just going to do the best we can and figure out where we are once we get it fully dried in. But that is exciting. That is exciting. So, okay, so this week's nugget, before I get into it, we're going to do stats real quick. But this week's nugget is all about finding your place online. And I feel like, I think we're at a crossroad, truly. And I don't really know what the crossroad is, to be honest, but I feel like we're on one. And I feel like there's a lot of noise going on, and people are really struggling on how to find their place online as a business owner, but also if you're just wanting to be a lifestyle content creator or a UGC content creator or an influencer, like whatever you want to be. I think right now we are all really struggling with how to find your place online. And if you're not an OG or you haven't, like, I don't know, like, if you haven't figured out how to, like, attract the person that is seeking your content that gets you, like, viral overnight, like, I feel like if you start today and you don't have a really strong who you are and what you offer, and there's not an audience looking for what you've got, you're going to struggle. And I'm seeing that all over the place. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more after I get through stats. So let's get into talking about compounding your social media interest. I am going to continue to shout this from the rooftops that there's no reason for you to create extra content when you can use the same content and post it across multiple platforms. It's working. It has continued to work. I have still seen growth. And so I'm going to keep doing this experiment because it's working. And if you haven't jumped on this train yet, I'm going to encourage you to jump on the train today because it works. Now, I do want to mention that Facebook seems to be extricating itself from Instagram. And I had been auto-publishing the content I create on Instagram to Facebook. And in the last few weeks, I have been getting error messages that my content is posting to Instagram, but is not posting to Facebook. And I think that is why. I think Facebook is trying really hard. I think last week I told you that they want to have their own platform for Reels creation. And yeah, so I have now added Facebook as a fourth metric, although I'm not tracking the stats. I think I'll start tracking those stats next week. But I think that you are now going to have to publish that content separately to Facebook if you want an audience on Facebook. Because I just keep seeing that error message. Like even my stories that are supposed to auto-publish over to my Facebook page for the House of Sugar Creek, I'm getting those errors too. Some of them will sneak through, but not all of them. So just food for thought that I feel like there's a turning point for Facebook right now. It's very interesting. It's all interesting, but that is interesting that they're both owned by Meta, but they're wanting them to stay separate. So here we go. When I started tracking my stats, it was January 27th. It is officially April 22nd. On YouTube, I started with 234 subscribers. I am now at 408 subscribers. Last week, I clocked in at 389. On TikTok, I started with 139 followers. I'm currently sitting at 690 followers on TikTok. Last week, I was at 635. On Instagram, I started counting at 3,470. I am currently sitting at 3,524. And last week, I was sitting at 3,519. So I gained 5 new followers on Instagram over the week. That is the stats. There's still growth on all platforms, which is exciting. That means that you don't need to create multiple pieces of content. You can use the same piece and just publish it everywhere you want to be found or everywhere that people are following you. So let's get more into this finding your place. So I've been doing this race to 10K in that mastermind that I've mentioned a couple of times. And this past week was all about like prepping your bio and niching down. And I see the information about niching down is because of so much noise, or how much noise there is on the social media platforms, specifically Instagram, because this race to 10K is for Instagram, although they are claiming that you could race to 10K on other social platforms. But the content that is being shared is specific to Instagram. So last week is all about niching down, and then like super niching down. And then this week is all about content creation from that information that you did. And so part of last week was like creating a bio that speaks to you niching down. And what I find interesting, so first of all, this mastermind is definitely attracting the home design, home DIY crowd. And so there are what feels like a bajillion newbies in this group trying to figure out how to find their place online. And while I think some of the information shared is definitely like good information being shared, I wonder the fallout on the information that I don't really think is the greatest to be shared. And I have always said, actually, like I've kind of gone back and forth, like in order to find your audience, you definitely have to understand your what and your why. And that will then lead you down a path to like creating a strong audience. And knowing who your blue person is so incredibly powerful, and even creating kind of a persona for that person so that you know who you're speaking to. And that stems from big brands having to do that kind of content creation in order to create their content for the thing that they're selling. Like all major marketing firms, marketing agencies, when they're about to step into a new campaign season for a specific item or a service, they do all of this research so that they come out of the gate swinging, knowing who they are trying to target. So all of their messaging is super crafted, super curated for that one individual, even though they may be speaking to a multitude. They have their messaging crafted down to a single human. And I do think that finding your niche is valuable, but I'm wondering to the extent of your personality. So recently with ChatGPT, I was trying to kind of spruce up my own Instagram bio, not necessarily because I was in this particular race to 10K, but I felt like it just needed a refresh, and your bio should, across your social platforms, should be refreshed or at least looked at and edited every 3 months, just to make sure that it still aligns with what you've done or what you are currently doing. Because I do think that if we're not careful and we're not constantly like editing ourselves, that we may pivot unintentionally. For example, we may pivot unintentionally, and then when we finally go back and look at our bios, we're like, oh crap, I haven't been doing that. I haven't been talking about that thing. And so what I have seen occur is people are very frustrated that they can't throw a wide net, that they can't be a lifestyle influencer, that they have to really niche down. One example is this girl that wants to share outdoor living and the things related to outdoor living, specifically like hunting and fishing and being self-sufficient in the woods and attracting other moms who want that lifestyle. And she's just struggling. She does not know who she wants to target. She just wants to post. And I do think there is a pitfall with that. And to be fair to her, she is trying and people are responding to her. But I think that we can't just be throwing spaghetti noodles at the wall and hope they stick. Like, I do think that there has to be some connection point. And I have spoken to this with the podcast where I feel like, up until I made this most recent name change, I was really struggling with relatability. And because I was so focused on just sharing business aspects and not really sharing kind of the minutia of what goes on in my brain from day to day, that I held my own self back because I am so black and white and my personality is one where I just want to give you the information so that you have it. And in doing that, I have almost like built a wall around me, not intentionally, but have created this space for you to not find me relatable. And which is why I've got this format change for the podcast where I am talking about like the books I'm reading and what's going on in my garden and, the hurdles that I experience in our businesses and like building a house. And I want to be able to kind of pull that curtain back so that the relatability comes out. And I'm not trying to force it, but I want people to know that I am just like everybody else. And I feel like when you're first starting out, or maybe you're making a change, like I am now talking about flower farming. If you asked me that 6 months ago, well, before I bought a farm, I would have told you that's funny, but now I'm talking about growing things in a garden and I'm building a barndominium hanger house. And a year ago, I wouldn't have said that that was on my plate or that was in my future and that I would be creating content around that. And so I do think that we have to be careful that we're not throwing or casting a super wide net. You definitely have to know who you are speaking to or who you're trying to attract. So are you trying to attract a 30-year-old female who is starting a business and, wants to do X, Y, and Z? Are you a mom of littles and you are trying to share your mom hacks with how you're getting through toddlerhood? Like that is like how you niche down. And so you're speaking to moms with toddlers and you're sharing your mom hacks through the toddlerdom. That's what it means to niche down, is getting super specific on who you're speaking to and then using like the story platform of that social channel to share more of the behind the scenes, but like keeping your content focused on the thing that you're wanting to attract or the thing that you're wanting to build community around. And so for me, like my content for the House of Sugar Creek has really shifted to small farm life and what it's like to build a barndominium hanger house. Like I'm a first-time home builder. I've never built a home before. And I've never had a garden this large or gardened in this way. And I've definitely never attempted to be a flower farmer. And so like that is who I'm speaking to. I am speaking to those two individuals. And so the bucket is farm life. Even though I'm not really living farm life, it is a part of my world right now and will eventually be what I'm living day to day. But I think too, I still struggle even like, okay, I'm first time home builder, but I'm also a flower farmer. So which am I? And so I got to figure that out because I want to attract other small farm people to follow my content. And I think it's anchored in gardening and flower farming, to be honest. But I also want to share the barndo build, which I don't think many people do, like that hashtag, the niche, the industry, it's very, very little. It is super niched for sure. So I think the barndo build may just be like the thing I'm doing in the background, and I'm focused on the gardening and the flower farming. I don't know. I really love the farm life, small farm life. I did have somebody on TikTok say to me, I have 68 acres and I don't call myself a farm because I don't have big farm equipment. And I'm like, girl, you get to call your land whatever you want to call it. I'm calling my 11 acres a small farm. Like, it's my prerogative what I want to call my land. And it's just as yours too. So own whatever it is that you want to own it. It doesn't matter if you don't have big equipment or not. Like, you get to call your land whatever you want to call it. And she was like, I feel like because I'm the first generation of this land, owning this land, that I don't get to call it that. And I'm like, you call it what you want. If you want to call it a farm, call it a farm. You want to call it a ranch, call it a ranch. I don't really think that there's like acceptable definitions out there that says anything over 100 acres is considered a ranch. Like, I've actually done that on a Google search, and it's vague. It's vague. So I'm like, call your land what you want to call your land. So all that to say, finding your place online. I do think you need to be anchored in a niche. I do think you need to figure that out and then grow from there. But I think in order to help you start, I think you're going to have to niche down and create content around that until you find your tribe, find your community online. I think that will help this be so much easier for you. There's just so much noise, and I just feel bad for a lot of these people in this race to 10K because most of them are home type content influencers or wanting to be that. And it is such a saturated market. And most of them are like, I'm in a builder grade home. I want to DIY it. That's what I want to do. And I'm like, and so are the other 100 of you that I can see in this group. So what makes you unique? Like, what is your design aesthetic? What are you really doing? And that's what sets you apart. It's not the builder grade home anymore. Like 10 years ago on Instagram, that probably would have made you have a strong following. But now it's not going to, which is why niching down is powerful to gain traction on social media. But also, I think it's important that you be okay with what it is that you're doing online. Like, at the end of the day, you have to live with the content you create and you have to live with yourself. So there's definitely a tightrope balance there with, is this really the niche you want to be in? I think there's some soul searching that has to happen. Like, I saw somebody talking about being a homesteader and doing sourdough and gardening and those kinds of things. And the advice was pick one. Don't just be a homesteader. Pick one and get really good at one. And it's like, how many different ways can you do sourdough recipes? But let me tell you, there is a lot of bajillion different ways that you can use sourdough starter, because I follow a girl that is all that she does. I'm in her little Instagram like community group chat thing, and her account is sourdough, Amy Bakes Bread, sourdough recipes. And that is all she shares, is everything related to using sourdough starter. And that's the niche she's found for herself. If she shares more than that, it's happening in stories, but all of her content is centered to sourdough. It's doable. She has found her people, and she's not strayed from that. Let me see if I can get to her. How do I get to her profile? Here it is. Okay, her profile, 498,000 people follow her. Sourdough recipes and help with your bakes. I'm Amy, sourdough teacher and recipe developer. I share my best sourdough recipes, one bake at a time, favorite recipes, and sourdough help here. And then it's her link, and then she has that group chat. That is what she has created. That's what she has done. And she's got her community. So what is it that you can do, that you can speak on? Because that's the other thing. How much content can you create around the thing that you're niching down to? And then that's what you do over and 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 over, and keep going and repeat. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Again, if you have a weighted vest or you've done the weighted vest thing, I'd love to hear your comments on that. And any other comments that you have about today's episode, come find me over on Instagram at Boss Girl Creative or Taylor L. Bradford, either one. I answer them both. Until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your week.
And flow. Let's go. Let's go.
And like my 3-year-old self said, that is all for this week. Friendly reminder to rate and review my show wherever you are listening. And last but not least, I'd love to hear from you. Leave me an audio message at bossgirlcreative.com/speak. I would love to hear your takeaways, ideas for upcoming episode topics, and your feedback. Thank you again for listening to this week's episode. And until next time, I hope you have a great rest of this one.